Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the McFarlane DC Multiverse Mr. Zsasz. This is a gold label McFarlane Toy Store exclusive. I pre-ordered him from there and he finally arrived today. Now I'm really excited for Mr. Zsasz. He's a character, an obscure Batman villain that I really like. I've made a custom of him, there's a couple figures from over the years, and this is the exact version that I wanted them to make. This is the version from Nightfall or Shadow of the Bat, The Last Arkham, and I love it. The original version of Mr. Zsasz, this is how he appeared in his earlier appearances, and it's exactly the one I've always wanted one of the companies to make, and here it finally is. So let's take a look at the packaging. As you can see at the top, 22 moving parts, McFarlane Toys, ages 12 plus. This is part of the Gold Label collection. A Gold Label figure is simply a retailer exclusive. Whether it be Target or Walmart, this particular Gold Label is a McFarlane Toy Store exclusive. DC Multiverse, Mr. Zsasz. Here he is in the package. He has a knife, display stand, and a collector's card. One side of the package, Mr. Zsasz. Other side, Mr. Zsasz. At the bottom, there's his barcode, if that helps anybody. And on the back, here he is. Now, the source material they use is a later version of Mr. Zsasz without the weird sort of slit eyes. Kind of odd. They're definitely not using source material that the figure's based off of, but whatever. I got the version of Zsasz that I wanted. So with no further ado, let's open him up. And of course, I did get two of these figures, one of which to open and enjoy, the other one to keep unopened in my complete Batman and related unopened action figure collection. And this is part of a huge haul of figures I got from the McFarlane Toy Store today. Time to open them up. Alright, now that this figure out of the package, here he is with all the accessories laid out. Display stand, collector's card, and a regular sort of kitchen knife. Before I take a look at all that, let's talk about and check out the figure. So this is Mr. Zsasz. He's sort of a more recent addition to the Batman Rogues Gallery. His first appearance was in 1992, and even though that was 32 years ago in the scheme of Batman, he's a more recent rogue. His first appearance was in Shadow of the Bat #1, storyline The Last Arkham, and he looked just like this in that. Now I've seen a lot of people online complaining, oh, I wish I made the video game version, I wish I did this. No, this is the one that I wanted the most, with the weird slit eyes, talon marks all over him. Perfect. Although personally, I'd rather him have shoes on, but it's all good. This is sort of him after he escaped from Arkham. And this is exactly how he looked in the comics. Shadow of the Bat #1 through 4, as well as Nightfall. I personally prefer the normal, iconic comic editions of the different rogues, and Zsasz is a great addition to the Rogues Gallery. McFarlane really needs to pick up the slack though. We need a comic version of Two-Face, Scarecrow, Black Mask, Poison Ivy, Ventriloquist, and so many more. Like the rest of the Batman Rogues Gallery, Mr. Zsasz has a unique look to him and a unique sort of backstory and what he does. So Zsasz is a serial killer, a murderer. He carves a tally mark into his body every single time he kills somebody to keep track. And his specialty is to leave them in lifelike poses. Say he kills, I don't know, husband, wife, and their kid. When somebody comes to see them, they're going to think they're still alive, so then you're watching TV, and as they come up to them, they're going to be shocked and disgusted when they find out they're dead. He likes leaving people on park benches, all kind of stuff like that. Pretty sick, twisted guy. It's sort of a Hannibal Lecter type villain when they introduced him. He was not only in a cell, but he was in like a small metal container. Every time he'd come out, they'd have a bunch of people wrapped around his neck. Batman would come to him, talk to him through the cell. Like I said, kind of remind me of the Silence of the Lambs. Mr. Zsasz has been in the comics, video games, the Arkham series, movies, Birds of Prey, TV shows, Gotham, and he's a pretty sick and creepy villain. That's why he was never in the cartoons, and also why I think most companies don't want to make a figure of him. He's also kind of a boring looking guy, depending on who you are. I don't think so, but I know that's how McFarlane perceives the masses. So let's take a look. Start with his head here. Now, I've seen so many people say, oh, he looks like Cody Rhodes, and, you know, sure, whatever. But not to me. He looks like Mr. Zsasz, exactly how I remember from the comics. Those really weird slits for eyes. Not exactly 100% sure why they did that in the comics, but it makes him look weird, creepy, and sinister. It's very stylized. White dots there. I love it. It looks just like the comic. Short blonde hair. Talon marks are over him, and they're just done in black, but that's how it looked in the comic. In later years, maybe they drew him like scars, but this is exactly how he looked in these appearances. They definitely nailed the look, if you ask me. And I'm not a huge fan of the Blue Beetle Booster Gold body. I mean, it works, but the stupid abs up top are just so noticeable and look kind of weird. I wish, if that wasn't the case, I wouldn't mind that much. Also, the wrists usually look ugly. I twisted them so the pin is on the outside, which is not really desirable, but I think they look better this way. He's barefoot. I understand he's a serial killer, he's crazy, he just escaped Arkham, but I do wish he had shoes on. It'd be a lot more all-purpose, and his ankles are so fat and ugly. Still, I'm so happy they gave us this figure. This has been a long time coming. I've wanted this Mr. Zsasz for a long time. A closer look at his face and head sculpt. It's very creepy. Look at those eyes. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys remember that comment McFarlane made a couple years ago about how people who collect female action figures grow to be serial killers. I guess Mr. Zsasz had a lot of female figures as a kid. Now let's look at the accessories. Here's the boring stuff. The display stand, typical McFarlane stand we've seen a million times before. Thin, basic. Here's his collector's card. As you can see, it's an image of Mr. Zsasz holding Batman's uniform. He has a knife, kind of looks like he just killed Batman. Now, for the life of me, why they didn't pick an image from the comics with the slitted eyes is beyond me. I've seen so many people online saying, why do his eyes look like that? Why do his eyes look like that? Well, because that's how they looked in the comics, and they should have put that in the packaging of the card. Mr. Zsasz, on the back, there is a description. If you want to read that, pause now. Here's his knife. Just a regular Michael Myers style kitchen knife. But it's very appropriate for Mr. Zsasz. It's not that he doesn't use guns, but he definitely prefers knife, the way that feels. And then, of course, he's going to carve a talon mark into himself, so he's always going to have a blade. Here's Mr. Zsasz holding the knife. He has one gripping hand on his left hand. Now, personally, I would prefer to have had two gripping hands so he could hold two knives. I don't really need fists for this guy. I mean, he can fight, but I imagine more so holding a knife. I wish I had one open hand so he could maybe grab his victim by the throat with one hand and have the knife at the other hand. Now I wanted to check out the differences in reuse between Mr. Zsasz and the Blue Beetle body. I call it the Blue Beetle body because it was first used with the Blue Beetle and Booster Gold 2-pack, and it's been used a ton since then. Obviously, their heads are totally different, but it looks like the torso and stomach is exactly the same. Hell, the diaper piece is the same. The arms, don't think they're exactly the same. No, they sure are. That's not sculpted, so just painted differently. And you know what? It works. I think he looks fine. I know I'm probably with the torso area. Those abs do bother me, that they seem a little bit less prominent on Zsasz. Maybe it's just a paint job, I don't know. The legs, top part, looks like it's the same. And the bottom part looks to be the same until you get to the ankles. And then the ankles and the feet, totally different. So it's a whole lot of reuse. And I'm feeling it for the most part. Although I do wish he had shoes on. That way I could use him as more of an all-purpose Zsasz, not a very specific one. And if he's going to be like this, I almost wish it said Arkham Asylum on his pants or something like that. And let's talk about his feet. So, the Todd McFarlane figure came with bare feet, and they seem to be a little bit smaller than Zsasz, although they look very, very similar. And then you have Plastic Man here, and his feet are also different from Zsasz's. He has, I don't know, it's hard to explain, almost like webbed feet. Like, Plastic Man is affected the way they look. Kind of an interesting detail if that's the case. I would have assumed all three of these figures would use the same pair of feet, but it does not seem to be the case. Now they've taken a pretty good look at the figure and its accessories. Let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, standing right at 7 inches tall, which can translate to about 18 centimeters. And for his articulation, starting with his head, of course, you can rotate from side to side. You can look up and down about that much. You can tilt his head from one side to the other. Shoulders, a ball joint, goes up way more than 90 degrees. The butterfly joint, not the most attractive thing, can look ugly depending how you pose him, but just get it good before you take a picture. Up, down, around. He's got this thing which can leave the gaps, which can be very annoying at times. Bicep cut, double jointed elbows, wrists, rotate, hinged. Also, wrists are kind of hideous on that guy. Torso, double ball joint, rotate around, forward and back. Another one in the waist, rotate around, forward and back. Between the two, very good range of motion. Get a little bit more out of the torso than the waist on him. Legs completely to the splits. McFarlane style hip joints. Rotation, decent on him. Legs go forward about that far. A little bit more go to the side. Back, not much. Double jointed knees. And then his ankle, which look really fat and ugly. Forward and back. Rotate. Tilt, rock. And of course, to articulation. Here's Mr. Zsasz in his cell at Arkham Asylum. Batman comes to confront him. There have been killings that match Mr. Zsasz's motive, but Mr. Zsasz has been at Arkham the entire time. Zsasz simply tells Batman it must be a copycat killer, but Zsasz has been secretly sneaking out of Arkham Asylum. Because of the concern that somehow Zsasz is sneaking out of his cell, which is exactly what's happening, they prep him and take him into deep isolation. Zsasz is being escorted by his doctor and the Arkham guards to isolation. Zsasz knows this is his only chance to escape. Zsasz escapes the gurney with a metal shard he's been saving just for the right moment. Even though it seems impossible, Zsasz makes quick work of the Arkham guards. He then turns his attention to the doctor. He has a whole nother 5 tally marks to add to his body. Batman investigates the scene at Arkham, finds the muzzle, and knows Mr. Zsasz is on the loose. A couple hours later, we have this family, mom, dad, and 2 kids walking down the streets of Gotham City. Zsasz, addicted to killing people, peeks around the corner and plans his next 4 tally marks. In their house, the family is just sitting there, relaxing, watching TV. Mr. Zsasz bursts through the door. Everyone's in panic. Zsasz did what he does, and here he is, cutting 4 more tally marks into his body. Later, Batman comes to the apartment, sees the family. They're all sitting in the couch like they're still watching TV, but none of them are alive. He was too late. To be continued. Now let's talk about next to some other action figures, starting off with some other Mr. Zsasz figures. Here he is, next to a custom Mr. Zsasz figure that my wife made for me over 10 years ago, based off the exact same look. And here he is, next to a DST, Diamond Select Toys TV show Gotham Mr. Zsasz. Then, next to the DC Direct, Arkham Asylum video game Mr. Zsasz. And now, next to a custom Mr. Zsasz figure made out of Mattel Lex Luthor from Batman vs Superman. I bought this guy on eBay for really, really cheap, and I didn't really plan to use him with Mr. Zsasz. I just got him because I love prisoner and inmate action figures, good army builders. But it's a nice Mr. Zsasz as well in prison attire. So here's my entire collection of Mr. Zsasz action figures. 3 of them are official, 2 are customs, and each one holds a special place in my heart. Now I believe this Mr. Zsasz figure is from the story The Last Arkham, but he looks exactly the same in Nightfall. So if you want to put him with your Nightfall collection, you could definitely do so. Here he is with the rest of the McFarlane Nightfall characters: Nightwing, Batman, Azrael, and Catwoman. And just like Mr. Zsasz, technically the Tim Drake Robin and Bane are not labeled Nightfall. Tim Drake Robin is the exact version from the Nightfall storyline, and Bane, he can work. It's a little bit different. This is Bane from the Rebirth comics, and there is a legitimate version of the Nightfall Bane coming very soon. I would love it if McFarlane would make all the different rogues from Nightfall. There are so many of them. They all look in their sort of normal 90s looks. Joker, Scarecrow, Two-Face, Penguin, Cornelius Stirk, Maxie Zeus, Ventriloquist, Amygdala. There's an endless amount of rogues they can make, and that's just from Nightfall. There's also Night Quest and Night's End. Bring 'em on, McFarlane. Here's Mr. Zsasz next to the Hush Batman, in case you would know how he scales up next to a larger Batman figure. And I've seen a lot of people online say that this Mr. Zsasz figure reminds him of Cody Rhodes, and while I look at Mr. Zsasz, I don't see Cody Rhodes, but it's a valid comment. Now let's check him out. Next to some other recently released McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here he is, next to a couple of other McFarlane Toy Store exclusive figures. We have the Patina variant of the Kingdom Come Batman, and the Nightmare variant of the Infected Batman Who Laughs. Here's Mr. Zsasz, next to the Page Puncher Superman Ghosts of Krypton sketch 4-pack. This is also a McFarlane Toy Store exclusive. And here he is, next to the Kryptonite Doomsday Mega figure. Then, next to the McFarlane Collector's Edition Series 4, the Penguin, Starfire, and Captain Boomerang. Just like Mr. Zsasz, the Penguin is the first time they've released a comic version of Penguin. We have a modern comic Penguin and a modern comic Mr. Zsasz. Two excellent additions to Batman's Rogues Gallery. McFarlane's been releasing quite a bit of stuff like that lately. They're getting a little bit caught up. Like I said before, we do still need a comic Two-Face, Scarecrow, Black Mask, Poison Ivy, but they're making progress. I'd also love to see a comic Riddler in a business suit versus the spandex outfit. We do have some upcoming McFarlane figures from the comics, like Punchline, and there's some stuff on the leak list, if it's true, I'm really excited for, like Clock King, Ragman, Mr. Bloom, fingers crossed. And now, next to the Target exclusive Gold Label Cassandra Cain Batgirl and Rival, here's Mr. Zsasz. Next to most recent Batman wave, we have both the red and Platinum Chase blue versions of Azrael in his armored batsuit, the black and gray Nightfall Batman, and both the regular and Platinum Chase variants of the Detective Comics 27 First Appearance Batman. And here he is, next to the JLA wave, Collectible Plastic Man. We have both the blue and Platinum Chase red versions of Superman, two fully assembled Plastic Man figures, Black Suit Batman, regular and Platinum John Stewart, and regular and Platinum Aquaman. Then, next most recent wave of Page Punchers, Superman Ghost of Krypton. We have both the regular and Platinum Chase armored versions of Val-Zod, the armored Superman, Ghost of General Zod, and the regular and Platinum Brainiacs. And finally, next to the digital wave, we have the Silver Age Hal Jordan Green Lantern, the DC Rebirth Batman, and the DC Classics Aquaman. Now let's check them out, next to some action figures from different various companies, so we can see how he fits in both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a McFarlane toy, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect. They work way smaller. But first, let's check him out with some of his McFarlane Toys brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane Toys, all 7-inch scale. And now, with some Jack-specific wrestling figures and some DST or Diamond Select toys, here he is, next to a box of Rice-A-Roni. And here he is, next to some DC Direct and NECA figures. Then, next to both some Mattel and Jazzwares wrestling figures. And now, with some Mezco and Mattel DC figures. Next, with some Mafex and Hasbro Marvel Legends. And finally, with some SH Figure Arts and some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. So overall, I love this Mr. Zsasz figure. It is exactly the version I wanted, and I know not everybody feels the same way. I love getting the original comic version of Mr. Zsasz. Now, the figure itself has some flaws. The Blue Beetle body, and you know what? It works okay. The abs seem a little bit less pronounced. I'm okay with the shirtless. I'm okay with the pants. I don't like the bare feet. I don't like the ankles. I don't like the fact that he has one fisted hand, one gripping hand. I think they could have made some better choices there. Sculpt and paint job, pretty nice. I see a lot of people complaining how the scars don't look like scars. They just look like someone used a Sharpie and put them on him. But that's how it looked in the comics. Articulation is everything you'd expect from a modern McFarlane DC Multiverse figure. Accessories, just a knife. It's okay. He definitely needs a knife. If I were to rate this figure, and this is a difficult one, so honestly my first thought is give it 8 out of 10. I really, really like this figure. And that's going to match my enjoyment of this figure. But that is definitely overrating him. I really hate the way those ankles look. He's got big old giant fat cankles, and that kind of sucks. I love his eyes. I love his face. I give him an 8 out of 10, but honestly, he probably deserves something like a 6.5. It is a really nice figure, and I love adding a new Batman Rogues Gallery member to the mix. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.